Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about 3-2-1 buy downs. So whether you're super familiar with what that means or you have no idea at all, stay tuned. Welcome back to Two Blondes and a Brokerage, and we're talking about 3-2-1 buy downs. And I think there's a lot of confusion about what a buy down is, where it comes from, how it's funded, how it impacts the buyer and the seller. And so we're just kind of work through all that today. And especially in the market we're seeing now, I mean, obviously we weren't talking about buy downs 6 months ago because there wasn't a way to negotiate that. But since the market has shifted and we're finally negotiating again, which is excellent, these have reappeared and they're a huge benefit to buyers. And so the way a 3-2-1 buy down works is it is a funded escrow account, and it can be funded by the buyer or the seller. Typically, though, you want it funded by the seller because it is prepaying the interest rate down on the mortgage payment. So for the buyer, it doesn't really make sense to, unless they have like a lump sum of money maybe they're getting as a gift or something, but otherwise they should just keep the money for the payment. But anyways, so the way that a 3-2-1 buy down works is that it's an escrow account that is funded either by the buyer or seller, which we've talked about, and it's a lender uses a formula based on the purchase price of the home and also the loan amount to come up with how much is needed to be able to fund that account to buy down the rate. So essentially, if the interest rate is 7% and you're locked in at that rate, a 3-2-1 buy down means that for the first year, your interest rate is going to be 3% less. So it's only going to be 4%. Then for the second year, it's 2% less. So it's going to be 5%. Then the last year, it's going to be 1% less. So it's 6%. And then every year after that, you're back at the original rate that you locked in. So this is nice because it kind of gives you the feel of an ARM without the anxiety of like not knowing what that rate's going to do later on. Right. So you're always locked in at that one rate. And if you have the opportunity to refinance later, which a lot of people do, and that's why we're doing them now, is because we're expecting rates to go back down and to settle at a lower rate than what they are now. So it helps to alleviate the stress of the interest rate right now, knowing that you're going to refinance before that term is up and then get into a lower rate that is also stabilized. And if it doesn't happen that way, well, then you know you're locked in at that 7% or whatever the rate may be.
It's not a surprise.
Right. And so you have to obviously be qualified at the regular rate without the buy down. And then so you know at least you can handle that payment, which is why it's much better than an ARM in my opinion. And there's not that uncertainty of like, well, I don't know what my payment's going to end up like, or, you know, 100% it's all laid out for you. The nice thing too about the buy down is, so let's say, you know, you have this escrow funded account and you do the whole first year and you're halfway through your second year and you want to refinance. Well, the money that is left in that account, in the escrow account, can actually be used towards refinancing or a credit or whatever prepayment of your HOA. So that money doesn't just go away, and you can use it to your benefit later too, which I think people don't know. And it's like, well, if I'm going to refinance in a year anyways, it's still beneficial to you because you can use that money later.
And you don't know what to expect. You might think that, you know, you can refinance and then the rates don't go down like we anticipate, or the recession takes longer than we think. So at least, like you said, instead of an ARM, you can almost guarantee that that's that rate.
Right.
Well, and as a seller, what's super beneficial is, you know, right now we aren't having 10 offers on properties or 60,000 over asking with huge appraisal gaps. We are literally working with houses staying on the market for 4, 6, 8 weeks. So if you are a seller wanting to, you know, elevate your ability to get your house under contract, the seller down the street might not be offering that. So by giving this opportunity to a buyer, they might go, you know what, I love both houses, but the only way I can afford it is to go with the seller who's willing to do that. Now, we've also talked about seller concessions, which people can buy down their rate. But the beauty to the 3-2-1, like you said, is it is a guaranteed rate. So you guys have heard us talk a lot about, you know, date the rate, marry the house, fall in love with the house that you want. Make sure that you can carry that 7% because the lender's not going to approve you if you're not. But date the rate. So with dating the rate, you kind of have that, I know I'm going to do the 4% and then it's going to go to 5 and then to 6 and then to 7. Whereas in that amount of time, you can do that refinance. And having that escrow account by being able to go towards that gives you more opportunity. Whereas if you're just stuck with a refi, or if you're just stuck with an ARM, or if you're just stuck with, you know, hey, I got a $10,000 seller concession, You also need to talk with lenders more too, because a lot of people get misconceived by that seller concession instead of a 3-2-1 buy down. Because with a concession, you might have to pay back your taxes, you might have to do, pay different closing costs after that year happens. So there's a lot of different pieces that you can maneuver. So talking with a lender is huge. And if you guys need any recommendations or referrals, we can certainly do that. Just hit us up in the comments. We're happy to send that over to you. But just keep us kind of in the loop of any kind of questions that you guys might have, because a 3-2-1 buy down can be really confusing if it's not dumbed down, which I hope we've done today for the most part.
It kind of helps to see it like written out on a board.
Exactly.
Too, which lenders are great at doing. So.
And that's the beauty of it. If we don't have the answer, we can find somebody who does. So
yeah, and I think that too, concessions are so powerful. There are maximums on concessions, which you need to know based on your loan program and how much you're putting down. So it's good to know, okay, well, how much concession is needed to fund the 3-2-1 buy down? Do I need the concession for something else? Am I maxed out on the concession? So you need to have all those conversations with the lender first. Right. And maybe it makes sense in your situation to use the concession for something else versus the buy down. So all these conversations you're having with us or with your lender to make sure that you're in the best situation for you. And really what we're seeing in the market right now is about 50 to 51% of homes that go under contract are doing a price reduction. And usually it's a mixture of a price reduction and a concession amount. Right. So, for sellers, we're advising them, you want to do the price reduction to get new attention or to draw in new buyers, a new pool of buyers, but you also want to make a note that you're willing to offer a concession funded towards a 3-2-1 buy down or a 2-1 buy down, right, or a permanent buy down to whatever the buyer really is looking for. And so you want to make sure that you're putting that in the remarks so that buyers know, okay, they're willing to do this, concession for me and the price reduction as well. And we're seeing a lot of that paired together. So as far as a buyer goes in this market, you have a lot of negotiating power, which is awesome. And we're seeing sellers be willing to do that. And so part of it for us as realtors is also to be advising our sellers like, hey, it may not be enough to do a concession. Right. So what do you need to net on the sale of this home so that we can make it beneficial to both the buyer and to you? Which honestly is so nice that we're getting back to that point. Like it should be a win-win situation. Beautiful. Yeah. So we're really happy to be seeing that. But now it's time as realtors to be educating your clients, both buyers and sellers, about what these concessions can do and the different ways to use them to make sure that it is a win-win situation for everybody.
Well, and that's a great segue to what I was going to touch on with the selling side. So at a listing appointment, we talk solely about money. How much money are you going to get me? When you have a 3-2-1 buy down, it works just like a seller concession. It's an escrow account that is held separate to what you're netting. So there is no disservice that you're doing to yourself as a listing agent to be very transparent about that. And as a seller, you're not doing yourself a disservice by either offering a concession or doing a 3-2-1 buy down. It's all kind of beneficial. And most sellers, what I've noticed right now too, buyers have all the negotiating power, but sellers do too. They kind of have a little bit more of a control on what they want to offer, because if it works, you can offer it in your listing description. But if it's a buyer and you're like, hey, I was offering a 3-2-1, but if you want the concession, we can do that too. Most sellers are willing to kind of work with whatever, because at the same token, they're getting the same net equity.
Right. Yeah, so, sellers don't care how the concession is used, really. They just need to know what should I be expected to offer. And to a seller, whether you're doing a buy down or you're using it to prepay your taxes or your HOA, they don't care. It just comes right off of their net proceeds. And so being able to explain that to them so they understand, okay, where does this money come from in the end? And maybe even walking them through some scenarios where it's like, okay, if we do a 3-2-1 buy down or a $15,000 concession or whatever, and have just different scenarios with different net proceeds, and title companies are great to offer those too, so that sellers know going into it, like, okay, we're going to list at this. This is my best case scenario. This is my worst case scenario as far as what I'm willing to accept. And here are some options in between, so that when an offer does come in, you kind of know ahead of time, like you prepared your seller, like this is what we're going to expect. Right. With an offer like this.
Well, and the higher these rates go, I mean, it's no secret it's going to get worse before it gets better. Yep. Which is not always a bad thing. Again, back in the 80s, we were at over 12%. So 7% is not that bad. It's all how you look at it. But it's definitely a really great opportunity to take advantage of in the market and the time of year.
Yep. We hope you guys enjoyed this video. We would love if you like and subscribe to our channel, and also dropped a comment with other options that you've seen for your clients. And we hope you have a great day.